What's up, YouTube? I am Kon Jelly. Welcome to ComiKon. Thank you so much for checking out this video. It is the end of 2020. It's actually New Year's Eve when I'm recording this, and it is a year that I think a lot of us would like to forget. It's has not been that great for a lot of people. But what better to do after not great year than look back at the year? That sounds like fun. So a lot of people will do their top 10s at the end of the year. Thought for 2020, I could do that. I could do a top 10. Except I had so many books that were just like right there at number 10, or maybe like that I wanted to have as an honorable mention. So I decided to do a top 20. So top 20, 2020. I'm actually, though, not going to go over every book in detail because I feel like nobody wants to watch this guy talk for an hour, let alone listen to this guy talk for an hour. But what I will do is the bottom 10 books, I'm just going to go over quickly. So without further ado, here is Kon Jelly's top 20 comics of 2020. All right, first up, we have the honorable mentions. These are numbers 11 through 20 in no particular order. Actually, check that. Gonna do them in alphabetical order so that you can't read into the order that I put them in, which one I like better. Maybe I like them all the same. All right, first on the list from Dark Horse Comics, we've got Bang by Matt Kindt. Next up, from Image Comics, Crossover by Donny Cates. All right, coming up next, from Aftershock Comics, we have God Killers by Mark Sable. All right, now we've got from Aftershock Comics, Join the Future by Zach Kaplan. After that, from Boom Studios, we have Once and Future from Kieran Gillen. Next up, the only DC book on my list from DC Hill House. It's Plunge by Joe Hill. Next up, from Dark Horse Comics, we got Spy Island by Chelsea Kane. All right, now from Marvel Comics, Strange Academy by Scotty Young. All right, from Image Comics, That Texas Blood by Chris Condon. And then rounding out the honorable mentions from Image Comics, Undiscovered Country by Scott Snyder. So those are the honorable mentions, the comics that I thought were excellent, but just barely missed out on the top 10. So if you haven't read any of those, make sure you check them out. I recommend them. All great books. All right, now my top 10 comics of 2020. Now, these are not necessarily series that started in 2020, but they were the comics that I was most excited to pick up on New Comic Book Day from my LCS that I would have top of the list to read as soon as I got home. They were the books that really got me excited, that I just enjoyed the most. So here we go. Number 10. All right, first up on the list, coming in at number 10 from Boom Studios, it's 7 Secrets by Tom Taylor. So this is a book that did have a little bit of hype around it when it was launched, but I think there were some other books released around the time that kind of overshadowed the book, and it didn't have as much of a marketing push as some others around that time. But I don't think it necessarily flew under the radar. It was a pretty big release for Boom Studios. But that being said, it's a fantastic book, great read, interesting story, interesting characters. The art is fantastic. I think the biggest thing I can say about this book is that it's action-packed and a lot of fun, but it's also intriguing at the same time. Like, I want to know what those secrets are, right? I don't know that it matters what they are. It's like a MacGuffin, right? It's not something that ultimately matters, and it also may be something that could be one of those things like the alien from Signs, where it doesn't matter how good it was because when you didn't see it, when you had it in your head only, it was so interesting, and then once you saw what it was, it didn't live up to it. So that you always run the risk of that, especially when something's built up a lot. But that being said, I really enjoy this book. I think they're doing it right. They're throwing in twists that I didn't see coming, and I'm really enjoying it. I can't wait to read it every month. Number 9. All right, coming in at number 9, also from Boom Studios, We Only Find Them When They're Dead from Al Ewing. Now, this is a book that came out around the same time, I think, as Seven Secrets. Its launch, I think, overshadowed Seven Secrets just a little bit. But great book, sci-fi setting that is super cool. Characters are really well written. I think that the art is incredible. The part of the story is that there are gods in the universe. It's the future, we're in spaceships and all that kind of stuff. Sci-fi. So, but there are gods in the universe, and these ships will find these gods, but only after the gods are dead. And then they harvest the gods, like the meat, the skin, the mouth, like all that stuff to survive. So it's a really cool story. I think it was something that could work really well as a film. It probably would work a little better than as a TV show, just because of the scope of it. It seems so epic. We're only 4 issues in, so I can't really say how the whole arc of the story goes, obviously, but very cool, very fun read, and just it pulls you in right away. It has to at 4 issues, right? So it pulls you in right away, and it's a great book to pick up. Check it out when you can.
Number 8.
All right, coming in at number 8 from Scout Comics, It Eats What Feeds It by Max Hoven and Aaron Crow. Now, this is a book that came out of nowhere for me. I did not have this on my radar at all. The first issue came out. Somebody told me about it. I read it digitally, actually, and then had to find my copy of the book because it was so good. It is a story that is set in the swamps of Louisiana, and it is a terrifying story about a guy who takes a job as a caretaker for a just drop dead gorgeous lady in this mansion in the middle of nowhere, and it is dark and just it's eerie. It's eerie. That's a good way to put it, which I think fits really well for a swamp in Louisiana and eerie, right? Those two things go together really well. So the story, basically this guy becomes her caretaker, or the caretaker of the property, and he has to, one of the jobs he has to do is to slip meat underneath a door. He doesn't know what's behind that door. It's a 3-issue series, so it's a very quick read. It's fantastic. It is terrifying and awesome. And I think one of the reasons why it made my list, not only because of the story, was because of the art. Actually, the art for this book fits the story so well. It doesn't look like every other book you've read. It almost looks like every panel is a watercolor painting. And it's very muted, not a lot of bright colors. And then when there are, they really stand out in the panel, and it really gives you that horror vibe really well. So It Eats What Feeds It. It's only 3 issues. Go check it out. It's awesome.
Number 7.
Coming in at number 7 of my top 10 comics of 2020 from Marvel Comics, it's Thor by Donny Cates. Now, I personally have never really been a big fan of Thor. I didn't really read it much when I was a kid. The couple issues that I did pick up, I just didn't really like. I mean, it was the early 90s. I don't know. Maybe Thor wasn't that great back then. I didn't like it. And the character always just seemed a little odd to me because it didn't fit my idea of a superhero when I was a kid. Because when I was a kid, superheroes were, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, things like that. And then Thor was like a god, right? Thor was from mythology. Thor's not part of superheroes. Thor's from mythology. But that all changed in 2019 when I read Silver Surfer Black. Silver Surfer Black really hooked me quickly. And when I found out that Donny Cates was then doing Thor follow up, I said, all right, I'll give it a shot. I really like this story. See where it goes. Man, I'm glad I did, because it has been fantastic all year long. Great book. And just it's tied in a lot to Venom and the story of Null and everything. And just the way it tells the cosmic side of the Marvel Universe, I thought was great. The art's been great. It's just, it really surprised me. I really did not expect to like Thor, and I'm really glad I added it to my pull list at my LCS because I enjoy it every month.
Number 6.
All right, next up, coming in at number 6 from Image Comics, it's Stealth by Mike Costa. Now, this is a book that I was told to pick up, and I did. I added it to my LCS, my pull list, and got issues 1 and 2, and they sat there. And then issue 3 came out, and I said, you know what? I need to really read this, or I need to tell my LCS, hey, I don't need that comic anymore. Well, I'm going to pay for a book I'm not reading. Well, I'm really glad I did, because it is a fantastic book. It is about a superhero in Detroit, set in Detroit, that essentially like develops Alzheimer's, and it's a really interesting story about what happens if a superhero gets old and basically loses his mind. And in this story, the superhero has a suit that gives him his like super abilities. So he's not of himself. He's not like he doesn't have any powers, but the suit is like an Iron Man kind of suit, that it basically is why he can fight crime and fight the villains and everything. And the story's about, so it's about his basically losing his mind, and then also his son trying to figure out what's going on and trying to basically stop his dad, kind of. And it's way more in depth than that, but it's really interesting. It's a definitely a different take on the superhero genre, and I really recommend picking it up. So Stealth from Image Comics.
Number 5.
All right, next up, number 5 from Image Comics, Stillwater by Chip Zdarsky. So Chip Zdarsky is the current writer on Daredevil, and that is making a lot of people's top 10 lists this year. I haven't been reading Daredevil, even though I heard it's very good. So I will get that on a trade. But his other book that is out right now, one of his other books anyway, Stillwater, is fantastic. So Stillwater is about a small town called Stillwater that basically is, or rather the people in it are all immortal. Really, if you're in the town limits, you cannot die. You can get shot, you can jump off a building, you can basically do anything, and you will not die. I think one of the issues, one of the characters talked about basically a head regrowing an entire body. But that being said, it's a story about a town that has to keep itself secret because, I mean, if you knew there was a town where you could go there and you wouldn't die, like you'd never age either, you would just be the same age and you are right now, wouldn't you at least want to check it out? Yeah, so would everybody else. So you got to keep it secret or else it could be a disaster. So it's about somebody who kind of stumbles into the town, is actually trying to basically incorporate himself into the town. There's a backstory to it, and there's more to the introduction, but it is a really interesting story. It's a very unique story for sure, and it's well written. I really enjoy it. You should check it out.
Number 4.
All right, so coming in at number 4 from Marvel Comics, it's Venom by Donny Cates. Now, this book is just massive right now. It is everywhere. Donny Cates is Marvel's golden child right now. He's been doing such a good job, and there's a good reason why this book is so popular. It is really well done. It is, giving us a new Venom story that is actually interesting, that isn't the same Venom story we've seen over and over again. Now, there are certain themes that are gonna go through it that you'll love from earlier Venom stories. But man, we've got a new big bad in Null right now. There's an event, King in Black, where Null has come to Earth and is basically just tearing it apart, right? And it's an epic tale that travels different universes, but even though it is cosmic and multidimensional, it is very personal. There's a lot of emotion in this book, and there's a lot of just heart in it as well. And the story of Eddie Brock's son and trying to keep him safe, but how he plays into everything that's going on. It's really interesting. So yeah, it's everywhere, but there's a reason that it's popular right now, and that's because it's awesome. So if you're not reading it, you should be, because it's a really good book.
Number 3.
All right, here we go. The top 3 comics of 2020. In at number 3, from Aftershock Comics, it's We Live by the Miranda brothers, Inaki and Roy Miranda. So this is a book that there's only 3 issues out. So how does it make the top 10, let alone the top 3, with only 3 issues released in 2020? It's that damn good. It really is. If you're not reading this, you really need to reconsider your comic purchases, because this should be up there. It's the story about the future end of the human race, and basically there's hope for a small number of children to be saved, to go off planet essentially, and they are tasked with getting to these like beacons so that they can be taken off of the planet. And we follow the story of a brother and sister. And the brother is maybe 5, and all he wants to do is be a superhero. And the sister is 12, and she is thrown into being the responsible parent essentially at 12, which is, not an uncommon story in general. But the addition of this being the end of civilization, and the fact that only the brother has the ability to make it to the beacon. If they both get there, only he gets saved, is heartbreaking from the start. Like, from the start that this is not going to be a happy-go-lucky tale. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some happy parts in it, and but there's some scary parts in it too, and it's really well done. It's got a little bit of the George R.R. Martin vibe of not being afraid to kill off characters that you might have thought were important, but guess what? They weren't. So if you are not reading this book, you're doing something wrong. Add it to your pull list on your LCS, at your LCS, and start reading this book. It is fantastic.
Number 2.
All right. My number 2 comic of 2020 from Image Comics. It is The Department of Truth by James Tynion IV. Now, this is a book that is just incredible. It is the story of a department of the U.S. government that is responsible for keeping conspiracy theories in check. Because in this world, if enough people believe in a conspiracy theory, or if enough people believe in something, it is true. So, you think that the earth is flat. Well, guess what? If enough people think the earth is flat, you freaking idiots. If enough people think the earth is flat, then it is in this story. And one of the main characters in the book is Lee Harvey Oswald. It's really well written. It's very interesting. It's very dark. And the art in it from Martin Simmons just fits the story that Tynion is trying to tell so well. And I think when it first came out, the art was a little polarizing. There were some people that didn't really care for the style. And I gotta say, I am all for it. It definitely was something that I wasn't used to in reading books. It was different than a lot of other comics that I've read. But it really fits. It really accentuates the story so well. It makes you feel almost like you're watching everything from behind a monitor, like you're monitoring the story of this comic in the way that this department of the government monitors other people. And it's really interesting. I'm really excited to see where it goes. We haven't really gotten a big bad in the story, even though there's been some marketing for a couple things that make you think, all right, this might be a major like villain. And they've set up a little bit of that, but we're not even scratching the surface with this book. So I'm hoping that this will also be on my top 10 of 2021 because I have a feeling it is going to continue to be fantastic. So number 2, Department of Truth, James Tynion. Read it.
Number 1.
All right, here we are. My favorite comic of 2020, the number 1 of my top 10 list. Should come as no surprise to anybody that has ever heard me talk about comics. It is from Boom Studios, Something is Killing the Children by James Tynion IV. It's hard for me to express just how much I love this book. It is so good. I really do get speechless and I have to stop. So this book landed on my radar when it first came out in 2019 because of the cover of issue 1, the variant cover by Jenny Frison. I hope that's how you say her name because I've never heard it pronounced before, but Frison maybe. The cover that is pretty famous now. Yep, that one right there. And I saw that and I said, all right, I'll get that book. I added it to my pull list right away, and it hooked me right away in 2019. And it was originally supposed to be a 5-issue series that even before the first issue came out, Boom announced that it was going to be an ongoing series. And wow, I'm so glad because it has just been phenomenal. It is this. So here's all you need to know about the story. Monsters are real, and there's this badass chick named Erica Slaughter who fights the monsters and kills the monsters. That's really all you need to know. If you want to know more, monsters are real, and only children can see them, right? They still believe in monsters, maybe, and they can still see them. And there's an organization that also knows about the monsters and tries to contain / kill / control. Well, I don't know about control, but to contain the monsters and to make sure that the general public doesn't know about it. And the main character, Erica Slaughter, is somehow affiliated with this group, but she is obviously not their best person because she's a little bit of a rebel. In any case, it is an awesome book. It's really well written. The art by Werther Dell'Edera is awesome. I know because I bought a cover, and it's great. It's dark. It is gory, but not in a gratuitous way. It's gory in a way that makes sense for the story, and it's not a book for kids. Something is killing the children, and it doesn't pull any punches. There's children dying in this book, and there's other people dying in it too. But it is fantastic. So there's a ton of hype around this book right now, and a lot of that is due to the assumption that it is going to turn into a Netflix series. Most of that is because of a deal Boom and Netflix put together, where Netflix gets first look at anything Boom puts out to turn into a series or a movie on their service. There hasn't been any concrete news about Something is Killing the Children. Now, in some previous newsletters that Tynion put out, he kind of had some language in it that hinted that there might be something else coming. But nothing concrete. Zero actual news about this being turned into anything other than a comic. And then the newsletter today, I'm just going to read it directly. And this is only the beginning. There are a few Something is Killing the Children related announcements coming in 2021 that will show the scope of what Something is Killing the Children. Oh man, he got his own acronym wrong in this newsletter. That will show the scope of what Something is Killing the Children has the potential to be in the comics market and beyond. I can't hint at it all more than that. So, interesting. There's obviously something in the works with this book. And 9 times out of 10, when a book gets turned into a movie or a TV show, unless the movie totally sucks or the series totally sucks, it skyrockets. Now, the prices of these books are already through the roof because of the rumors of this happening. So I don't know that this will change much, but if you wanted to get it on the ground floor, you're a little late. But if you want to get it on like the 10th floor when it's going to 100, you should get the books now. So another interesting thing from the newsletter is that when Tynion mentions that when they had originally talked about expanding the book beyond the original 5 that the series called for, he had imagined issue 15 to be the finale of the whole series. In reality, that's just going to be the finale of what they're calling the Archer's Peak saga. So the location that they start in. And in the newsletter, Tynion says that we can consider 15 to be the ending of the first Erica Slaughter novel. It is going to be like an ending, and then an intermission after March. Don't know how long it's going to be until we get issue 16. But then once that intermission is over, we'll get the second Erica Slaughter novel. So this is really cool, really interesting. I would say, if you're not already reading this, shame on you. But pick up a trade, because the books are way too expensive now to try to find. But pick up a trade, read it. It's awesome. You could tell all your friends, hey, I read that before it became an awesome show or an awesome movie. Like the book was better. The book was way better. Yeah, pick it up. It's awesome. All right, so there you have it. My favorite books of 2020. Let's go over that top 10 one more time. So number 10, we had 7 Secrets. At number 9, We Only Find Them When They're Dead. At number 8, It Eats What Feeds It. At number 7, Thor. Number 6, Stealth. Number 5, Stillwater. Number 4, Venom. Number 3, We Live. Number 2, The Department of Truth. And at number 1, Something is Killing the Children. What'd you think? How good was my list? How bad was my list? Doesn't really matter. It's my list. I get to say whatever I want. But I hope you enjoyed these books as well. Let me know if there's something that you think I left off. There was only one DC book in my whole top 20. I don't read a lot of DC, but I did read a few books this year that I did enjoy. I mostly stick to the Black Label stuff. A couple that got close to being included on here were Far Sector, although that's not Black Label. I did enjoy Far Sector, and that might be it. Again, not a big DC reader, but yeah, if I missed anything, let me know. If not, and you just enjoyed the list, well, kudos to you. You're a smart comic book reader, in my opinion. So, yeah, thank you for checking out this video, and I will catch you all at the next ComiKon. See ya.